Alright guys, welcome back to another Dragon Ball Sparking Zero video. I know it's been a minute since we made a video on Sparking Zero. The game's been kinda, dead. Definitely have a couple thoughts about that I was gonna make videos on. Probably am still gonna make a video about it. But with that being said, we do have a new free update for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero that will be releasing tomorrow at midnight to 2 a.m. December 12th, PST. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the adjustments that are going to be dropping with this update, talking about what they mean for the future of the game, as well as just if this is what the game needs. With that being said, let's get going. So off the bat, this is a new free update for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero on December 12th. Due to the update release, maintenance will be conducted 9 to 11 and 0 to 2 PST on December 12th to ensure a more playable experience in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Supported platforms PS5, Xbox, and Steam. This is going to be the new version number. So the first adjustment that they made is a game mode adjustment to where in battle, all stages are now available in offline player versus 1 versus player versus 2 battles. That's cool. I haven't done any offline battles really, so I haven't had too much experience with this. Second up, we have functionality adjustments. The first one being battle setup. A function allowing you to change a character's display method has been added. I'm assuming this is the leak that we saw where you can have you can go through all the forms off of just one character. I think that's what this is referring to. Then we have the My Sets function has been added for team members. I'm assuming this is kind of like in Legends where you can create your team presets. That's what this is. So maybe you don't have to take 30 years trying to make your team every single time when you're trying to do DP battles with friends. So that is cool. Depending on how many of those we get, that would be nice to have for sure. Definitely would rather have it than not, right? Ranked and player matches. You can now skip the intro battle animations. Requires both players to input the skip command. Glad this is being added. Should have been in the base game, but glad that this is being added nonetheless. Those intro battle animations do get tiring very quickly, especially because the dialogue on them is very repetitive. They say a lot of the same stuff to a lot of the different characters, so it's not really cool a lot of the time. Then we have player match. You can now set your team to be hidden or revealed to your opponent when editing your team. Don't think this really matters too much, but this is okay, I guess. This is just kind of an addition. I don't think anybody asked for this or really cares. Custom battle mode text can now be sorted alphabetically. That's cool, but not exactly what custom battle mode needs. I think for custom battle mode, they really just need a search option where you can kind of search for what you're looking for. The current search option is not very good at that. Then in options, you can now set the battle camera distance to be closer. I don't think anybody wants to really do that. If anything, I want it to be farther out. So there's that. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty, man. The battle system adjustments. Off the bat, we have a new action called a high-speed dragon dash. This is a new quick movement action, high-speed dragon dash, where you can quickly move towards your opponent by performing R2 and X. We'll see what this looks like in game, but this is nice. It gives us more approach options, right? It allows us to be a little bit more aggressive by just being able to get closer to them without having the same repetitive things that we already have in the game that let you get close. So that's a nice little addition, definitely welcome. Smash attacks. You are no longer stunned when being hit by a rush ki blast when charging a smash attack. That is huge, because that makes it to where somebody's ki blast spamming you, you have smash attack as an option to counter that. Then also when you're charging a smash attack during a rush attack, the charge time reduction is based on the hit count has been increased. So what I believe this means is your smash attack will come out faster during a rush attack, but the charge time reduction is based on the hit count that's been increased. So now it's going to be more reactable because it's going to take longer, since the more hits you do, the more charge time it's going to have. This, I believe, is to nerf the down triangle spam, the grand slasher spam that people do with a sidestep grand slasher over and over again. That's what I believe this is targeting. Now, rush ki blast. The time between being able to fire the next rush ki blast after firing the maximum consecutive amount of at once, different for each character, which we already know, has been increased. This obviously is to target that Broly ki blast spam so that you can actually have more options to be aggressive and they can't just constantly spam you, because currently the time between him being able to fire that was just too low. So that's good that they added that. Now, this is another thing that's amazingly huge, and this is something I talked about a lot on stream, was The fact that when somebody's rush key blast spamming you, eventually the game just forces you to stand still and take it. They are now removing that, so you can move while deflecting rush key blast, which is huge, absolutely huge. Some people kept arguing that you could already do this, but they didn't understand that, yeah, you can move around and deflect, but at a certain point when you're getting hit by those key blasts, it will hit you. It will lock you down, and it will force you to not be able to move. So that is a huge change that they have went ahead and made. And that's great. That's really good. That's definitely one of the things that we needed. Now, steps. You will no longer be able to be hit by certain attacks immediately after performing a step, which is good. And rush key blast and smash key blast can now also be evaded. This is huge because it gives us, again, another option to avoid this key blast spam meta that we are currently in. And that's obviously something that we really desperately need right now. Now, Z-Burst Dash. The Z-Burst Dash is getting a nerf. They're making it to where the amount of ki consumed by activating it has been increased. This is the burst dash that a lot of people use to get behind people. This is the square and X burst or double X burst dash that immediately puts you behind your opponent, gives you a lot of options. This currently costs 1 key bar. I'm assuming that now it's probably going to cost 2. And that is a massive nerf. It makes it to where you have to be really mindful when you're using it, which right now a lot of people just kind of spam it. But now they have to be a lot more mindful, which is, I think, very important. It should be mindful and not just something you spam constantly. Burst Smash, ki will no longer be consumed when activating it, but will instead consume an amount based on the distance traveled. I'm not sure which move this is, actually, so I'm going to go ahead and check that real quick before we talk about it. Is this the square and X? Yeah. So, this Burst Smash is the one where you teleport behind your opponent and hit them. The ki will no longer be consumed when activating it, which is good because sometimes you like activate it and it doesn't even hit, right? But it instead consumes an amount based on the distance traveled. So if you're like close range, it won't consume as much. But if you're doing it from far away, it'll consume a lot more. I think that's a nice little change to it. Definitely doesn't make sense for it to be the same cost close and far. I think it's a lot more valuable close range than it is far range, but it's still a good change nonetheless. Not necessarily a nerf or a buff, but just more of an adjustment. Blast. Damage has been increased when using a boost. Don't know what that really means. I'm assuming it's probably just stat buffs. Whenever you have a stat buff, your damage is increased even more than it already was. Another major change right here is going to be the Z-Search. Z-Search will no longer lose track of your opponent when characters are swapped, which is absolutely huge. This was so incredibly dumb, where you could just swap a character, run away, and they have no idea where you are. You could get heals off. You could get so many things value-wise off of this. So it's a good thing that's being changed. And then the other thing is you will now quickly regain sight of your opponent if they enter your line of sight from the front when Z-Search is not locked onto them. This was something that was extremely stupid, where you would literally be looking at your opponent and not lock onto them for a very long time. So now I think they're shortening that time period to where it regains the sight, and that should feel very good in play. Now a big one, Z counter. The input window has been shortened to make it harder to get Z counters, right? The Z counter will now become more difficult to perform if it's performed consecutively. This is the Vanish War counter. We don't want to have too many Vanish Wars, so that's what they're doing. They're making the timing harder for if you're doing it over and over again. The ki consumed has been increased as well to make it shorter. And skill count increased speed has been reduced when successfully performing a skill counter. This was another thing. People playing Vegito, Super Vegito, would just constantly be getting Vanish Wars with their after image strike, and then they'd have another after image strike. They do one again, and then they have another one. So that's what this targets a lot, and this is a very perfect adjustment to Z counter. And this is exactly how I would have adjusted it as well. I don't think there's anything here that they did that I wouldn't do or something that I would add to this. I think this is perfect as is. This is what Z counter should have been, and I think that's great that they went ahead and did that. Now, revenge counter is getting a slight change. So when you revenge counter now, skill count consumed when using perception against revenge counter has been reduced from 2 to 1. This is amazing because this is what it should have been. It doesn't feel very powerful when you counter a revenge counter, where you're using 2 and they're using 2, but it's like they use 2, they reset to neutral. You use 2, you basically get nothing out of it. And they can also just do another revenge counter, and then it's just consuming your skill gauge, and it's just not worth it. So it's good that it's down to 1 now. That I feel more appropriately adjust how valuable it is to percept that. So that's good. Rush attacks during sparking mode, gradual damage reduction of consecutive hits has been increased. So basically they increased the combo comp. And I don't know if that's only in sparking mode or just overall in general in the game they've increased the combo comp. But this is obviously to counter sparking mochis where people are just spamming square and then they're launching ultimates and stuff like that. That's what this is aimed at. Now, combos. The final attack of aerial combos and aerial slash combos no longer interrupted by guarding. This is absolutely amazing. Those combos should have always been true combos where you have to either perfect banish them or you have to super counter them. And that's not now what they're going to be. They're not going to be guardable, which they never should have been guardable. So that's great. Character switches. Health recovery's rate of standby characters has been reduced. That is good because in the current meta, right, you playing DP battle, you have 5 characters on the field. And they're constantly switching between each other, getting a bunch of HP back. And right now, they just get too much HP back. It's really a ridiculous amount of HP that they get all there on the bench. So that's another change that was definitely 100% needed. And a really big one, Z-Burst Dash on Giant characters is no longer unguardable. You can just block it now. So you don't have to worry about getting spammed by that. Definitely something that needed to be adjusted on Giants there. I don't think they intended for it to be played the way it is right now. And then we have skill adjustments. So this is an interesting one. Skills that cause instant sparking mode have had their skill count consumed increased. Now this obviously doesn't specify how much, doesn't say if it's character specific, it just says overall. Now we did get a leak that Bardock's skill count is now 5, not 4 for his instant spark. That can mean one of two things. They either increased every instant sparking mode by 1 skill point, or they increased instant sparking mode to cost all the character skill points. I would prefer if it was the latter, but either way, it would be a good change. So we'll see what they decide to do when the patch goes live tomorrow. But either way, I do think this is a good change, and this is good that they are addressing the sparking mode is an issue, and that's perfect that they're doing something to modify that. Skills that increase stats in general have had their skill count consumed decreased, which makes sense. You know, you shouldn't have a skill which is giving you only stat buffs, cost 3 skill points, while meanwhile somebody's getting stat buffs and sparking for 3 skill points, right? It's just logical. It shouldn't have the same value, and that's good that they're reducing that. Another big one here, after image strike. The effect duration has been reduced to 10 seconds and will be removed if your opponent uses perception while you are under the effect. This is absolutely amazing. This is what we needed. And now it's like you have to be careful when you're using after image strike not to spam, because if you get percepted, bam, that's 3 skill points gone. Your after image strike is gone, you're back to neutral. So this is a great change. This adds a lot of skill gameplay to it as well. And this is an interesting path to go with after image strike that I personally didn't think of. And I was thinking just, you know, you put key to K back on and stuff like that. But I like this route. This route is very interesting. I'm interested to see how this plays out. This adds a nice element to the game with after image strike. I feel like with this, you can still get value out of it on the lower tier characters, while it's still, you know, on the high tier characters, yeah, they have it, but it's not busted like it was already right now. False Courage is now costing 2 skill points. That is the super armor that a lot of people use on Android 1920 to go ahead and get super armor, grab, repeat, stuff like that. Great change there. Thank God for this, bro. We are definitely going to be using this. All I need is 5 seconds is getting a buff. It's going to be now costing 1 less skill point, and the status increase when you get it has been increased. So it's going to give you even more buffs, and it's going to be cheaper. So that's very good. Gogeta Blue also getting a buff because Stardust Barrier can now be activated while taking melee attacks from the front. That's absolutely huge. Blast adjustments. Long range blast and ultimate blast have had their speed reduced. This does give you more time to react to them, and I think that's good because currently they are really just too fast to the point where they feel impossible. Or you just have to practice for way too long to really counter them. So that's good that they're doing that. Super Vegito Final Kamehameha takes more ki, does more damage. Goku Mini Quick Rush can now have trajectory change. And then another decent change is Mr. Satan's Present Bomb has more end lag. So you can't just spam Present Bomb, Present Bomb, Present Bomb, Present Bomb over and over again. That's a lot of people were doing, so that's good. That is a good change as well. Character adjustments, the obvious ones out of the way. Android 19 and Dr. Gero will have their health key amount absorbed adjusted on successful throw. Probably going to be lowered, so they won't get so much. And Dragon Dash, Quick Ascent, and Quick Descent now consume ki for them. The interesting thing to note here is they don't consume ki for them anymore, but they still don't consume ki for the other androids. I think the reason they have allowed that is because the other androids don't have heal. But I do think that's a mistake. I do think the other androids being able to spam it still is going to be an issue, and people are going to take advantage of that. But we'll see how that plays out once the patch drops. Second form cells grab can now be escaped. Cool. Cooler got an HP buff on his restoration on transformation. Could help him out in DP battle, be more valuable. Giant characters now have a increased time to do smash attacks, and it has reduced power. Absolutely perfect. Giants were doing way too much damage, way too fast. Perfect change on the Giants right there as well. And then Grade 8 Vegeta and Dr. Wheeler both had their max HP reduced. Another solid change. Other than that, they have improved performance and ease of use, other stuff down here. And that is pretty much the entire December patch for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. And man, let me be the first to say, I am extremely pleased and extremely glad that they have listened to the community. They have taken the feedback that the community has put out there over the past 2 months. I am a little disappointed that it took as long as it did for them to realize, hey, we've messed up, let's try to fix it. I think that they have lost a lot of players as a result of that, and those players most likely will not be coming back to the game. And it has really shown in the numbers for the game as well. We went from having 120 or like 100, it was like 200 something thousand, I think, players on day one. And then it's by the end of the first month, it dwindled down to like 20,000. By the end of the second month, we've dwindled down to 4,000. And people are, they're arguing and they're coping and they're saying, oh, it's because games lose players over time. Yes, games lose players over time, but that's a drastic amount to lose. And that's something that you can't really overlook. And there's a reason for that. We have people in the community that are complaining like, hey, these are issues we want to address. We want to talk about this. And Bandai at the moment was kind of just like not listening. They weren't responding. We got the news that, hey, there's a December patch coming, and that was good. But then at the same time, we had the stuff going on with the Dramatic Showdown tournament, which made people very angry because, yeah, we have a December patch coming, but we have all these issues, and you decide to host a tournament. And it's all been a mess. And we'll talk about it in a different rant. That's not what this video is about. This video is just about going over this patch. And my thoughts on this pairing patch is I think this is the perfect, absolutely perfect first patch for the game. First real patch for the game, right? And I do think this patch should have come out sooner, but I'm glad that it's here now, right? I will actually be playing the game again. I haven't actively been playing the game because it's just not been fun, but with these changes, I'm definitely going to be playing the game once again. I'm going to be trying to have fun with it and play with some friends and stuff as well. Hopefully they also get onto it. And overall, I do hope that this patch makes the game more enjoyable for you guys as well, and really reignites the passion that we had for Sparking Zero initially. This is a game that we look forward to for a long time. This is a game we want to love, we want to play, and hopefully these changes lead us in that direction. With that being said, this is your boy Eisen, signing out.